Is she recording this?
But I did not record. Oh! Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with me, Carly. And in today's video, it's quite special because I've asked some of my friends to have a conversation with me about this topic of home and belonging. I did the video recording over Zoom. As you've seen in the intro, I forgot to record the beginning of the conversation, which was about a good 30-40 minutes in the conversation. There was no way I could retrieve it because it's just gone. So if the video seems abrupt or if the video seems incomplete, it's because of that. Everything was just out of order. We tried to talk about it again at the end, so we finished recording, we finished the conversation, and then we tried to remember and go back to what we've talked about in the beginning.
Yeah, you can say it again if you wanna.
Oh yeah, I was saying, come back from like, I don't know if you do it fast, but if there's like,
but at the same time, it's really different. It just didn't flow properly. And also, the conversation has been going on for too long. The Zoom recording that I have, not counting the unrecorded one, took about more than an hour. I had to cut all those and I didn't want to put a long video, so I would save the other topics for next time. Oh yeah, you guys can introduce yourself. I did not ask you to introduce yourself.
Oh, I see.
Oh my.
happy.
Hi, I'm Kern Wing.
You're not.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm an aspiring lawyer. Have my number, please.
I have this identity crisis, really, when people ask me, "Oh, where are you from?" Like the question, "Where are you from?"
Yeah.
Because I look Chinese, but I don't speak Chinese, and then I speak English. I speak English. I would say it's my, I don't know, is it my first language now? I think it will still be Tagalog, but still
Yeah, I agree.
level, about the same level. But there's this confusion, right? Like for example, for Jordan, if people see or hear that you express yourself better in English, I
Yeah.
guess, and then they would ask you, "Where are you from?" I have this identity crisis.
Yes.
So I
Yes,
explain
I
my
get
whole history of moving. That I was born in Hong
it.
Kong, but I grew up in the Philippines and I came back to Hong Kong for education. But at the same time, I don't consider Hong Kong home. But now that I stay here for 7 years, I feel like it's home. But at the same time, I don't feel home. I want to ask you guys about when you're asked where are you from, and where you ask where is your home or what place do you consider home, would you have the same answer?
Well, if I'm like in Australia and they ask me, "Oh, where are you from?"
Yeah.
and I can't even say I'm Australian anymore because I lost my bloody accent.
Yeah.
But if someone local asked me and they'd be like, "Oh, but then you told me earlier you can't read or write Chinese." And then I would just like start a whole conversation of, "Oh, it's because I went to an international school and then there I learned French instead of Chinese." I think which place I call home. Honestly, I feel like it's neither.
Right. Same thing for me. It's neither. Okay, we'll go back to that. I'll go to Jordan first. When you're asked where
Oh, okay.
from, and then they know that you express yourself better in English, would that change it? Would you say I'm from Hong Kong and then explain your whole history of why your Chinese is not as good as your English?
Yeah, I think you basically hit the nail on the head with basically what I would say. It's a bit easier for me because again, I spent my whole life like growing up in Hong Kong, and my face is basically Chinese, and the only thing that kind of throws people off again is when I speak English. They're like, "Oh, okay, you're a bit different." I'd also go like I'd also be like, "Oh, it's because I didn't have the same upbringing. I spent time in international school, and I'm still trying to recover, trying to learn my Cantonese and improve it. I've picked up some of their slang just to kind of fit in. I've picked up what like they like to talk about, to joke about, to fit in. But sometimes some people feel like they have to go out of their way to speak to me in English, and I kind of feel bad about that because I'm like, oh, that's not really not what I'm trying to do. Mainly I want to improve my Cantonese, so I don't necessarily need to be addressed in like English. It does feel weird though, I will admit, because you're not like your voice is a lot different from like your outlook for me, and that you're not like a local, but then you're also not like from Aguilo, like from overseas.
Yeah.
So for me, there are times when I'm like where do I really belong? Is it like am I one of the locals? Am I going to be like part of the Hong Kong community, or am I supposed to be overseas? Am I supposed to be somewhere else with my language abilities? So I would at the moment I still think that I would say my home is Hong Kong, that I am from Hong Kong. It's just a little tricky when it comes to navigating like how I got here.
Relate to that so much. It's like when I'm in Australia, they're like, "Oh, she's so Chinese," and then when I like local people, they're like, "Oh, she's Western,
Exactly.
like she's not like us." It's like, I'm like, where do I belong?
Like in one internship, like one of the workers called me guai.
This whole sentiment of where do I really belong, the reason why I thought of this idea of interviewing friends
Right.
about this topic was because lately I've been just really really missing Philippines.
Right.
Um,
I saw
so
your Instagram story.
yeah,
Yeah, same.
I think it was because my mom and I were talking about it. So she was video calling family at home. See, I still
Right.
call Philippines at home. The thing is, I consider it at home, so like I'm homesick. Or whenever I talk about the Philippines, consciously or not, I still call it, oh, I want to go home. So when I say I want to go home, I want to go back to the Philippines. But at the same time, it's not a place wherein I consider settling down in the future. Does that make sense?
Right.
That makes so much
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to explain that feeling of I miss home, but I don't want to stay at home for life.
Yeah, I saw like I watched a video. I'm sorry for
Yeah, yeah.
interrupting,
No,
but
no,
like
go
I
ahead. I
saw,
was
I
just
saw
not.
like a video about a guy like look completely unrelated to like Hong Kong, but like the guy was like a filmmaker, and he like made a movie like in his like home city, but then he had to move away, and like years later he like revisited the movie, and he hated it because it reminded him of home, and he missed it so much. And he put it like I like what he like put it best about home is that home is kind of is a place that you remember fondly, but you can never really go back to. It's not really a place you can really like return to. It's more
Oh.
like a fondness like in your mind instead of like you can go back. Because I think like after leaving home, like home, and then going back, it's never going to be exactly the same. That's how I see it.
Do you guys consider home as a place where you see yourself growing up in? I mean, sorry, not growing up in. Do you guys?
I can still grow up.
Yeah. So for me, it's Philippines and Hong Kong. For Stephanie, it would be Australia, Hong Kong. For Jordan, it would be Hong Kong. But at the same time, Jordan, you're still thinking about whether I still belong here.
Yeah, yeah.
See yourself in the future living in either of those places. Like, to be honest, I actually don't see myself living in either Hong Kong or Philippines.
Yo,
I,
I see you traveling.
Yeah, you seem like the type to travel and hike every mountain that you come across.
How about you guys? Do you see yourself settling or seeing your future careers growing up in either of the countries that you've visited, you've lived in, you've mentioned? It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
a concrete answer. It can be
This
like,
is where it really sucks, is because I take English, as you all know, and it's English education. And I feel like a phony in Hong Kong because I can't read or write Chinese. But at the same time, I know my career will only advance if I'm in Hong Kong. Because even if I do advance, it wouldn't be like I'll be held as a really high regard because of my appearance, even
Yeah,
though
I was about to say
voice is
that.
like, oh, she sounds kind of native, although she doesn't like it. But then if I decide to go back to Australia, like I will not be able to become an English teacher at all.
Yes.
Like even for Asians who grew up in Australia, like at most they can maybe be like a primary school teacher,
Mm.
but not like a high school teacher. It's because of how we look. unless I teach Chinese, but again, that's impossible. It's like I do want to go back to Australia, but then at the same time, will I just give up my career and what I studied for just to stay there? And then I don't know, maybe just work at Woolies or some shop.
Woolies.
I do want to settle in Australia, but at the same time, I don't see any career opportunities for me. Whereas if I stay in Hong Kong, there's a better chance for me of advancing my career. But at the same time, I don't feel like I belong due to the language barrier. If I answer your question, home would be like, well, I imagine it to be if I go to Australia.
So I just want to add a little before I get to my answer. I'll just add a little something to Stephanie. I have a feeling that even if you like fully developed your Aussie accent, they're still not going to hire you as like an English teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because of the appearance alone. And
Don't
I
you
think I remember.
I'm joking.
And I think I remember, like you said, like your kindergarten teacher in Australia was racist towards you.
It was my primary school teacher. Yeah.
Primary school teacher. There you go. So it just goes to show that even like appearance-wise in like other countries, you know, kind of, you're gonna have a hard time fitting in. And so back to like you know what my answer now, it's like it's really tough whenever I talk about the future because it's one like huge like uncertainty for me.
Yeah.
On the one hand, again, I'm still not a lawyer yet, and I still need to apply for one degree to become like a practicing lawyer. But thinking about whether or not I want to work in like Hong Kong or Australia, which are like the two biggest possibilities for me. Like I studied 4 years here for Hong Kong law. So if I have to like work overseas, like in Australia or some other jurisdiction, but
Yeah.
again, I'd have to like transition. I had to learn Australian law if I wanted to practice it there. The main concern is that I'm not sure whether or not like Aussies want to hire me, you know, a Hong Kong, you know, law student who, you know, moved, even though I'm an Australian citizen, but I spend like most of my life in Hong Kong. I'm not sure if they want to employ me to work at their firm or to represent them, whatever I choose to do. It depends whether or not I could find a job, and also like the language barrier. Like when I like in the workplace, it's most likely going to be communication in Cantonese, and I just don't know if I can like adjust to it or fully fit in. And also like in Hong Kong, a lot of the stuff in workplaces is very political, and again, I don't know like if I have this sort of barrier, would I be like easily like out like like in no time. There's so many like question marks about like the future of like where I ultimately want to be, because again, there's so many issues and benefits that I see with like both
Mm.
possibilities that I'm given. So at the moment, I have no idea, or maybe I don't end up, you know, continuing this profession and I end up doing something else. But so many, yeah, again, many decisions to make, and I can't say I have an answer just yet.
Yeah. So like the reason why I asked that is because I think we're all graduating, are we?